Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan,
And I'm Rob.
and we're going back to the fantasy.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
Sorry for the long hiatus. We're ready to get back into fantasy baseball and fantasy football of 2022. We're going to kick things off with just some general talk and overview of what's going on in the 2022 fantasy baseball season. Rob, so good to be talking to you and get the podcast up and going again so that all 5 of our viewers can finally get their fix. What's the biggest thing that you've noticed as we're starting fantasy baseball season again, and we've had kind of a up and down April month to start the year?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it always is in fantasy baseball. It's patience. The first month generally means nothing. There's a lot of slow starters going on right now. The time is now to capitalize on people that are impatient, and they will drop the likes of a Jesse Winker, for instance. We were talking about him earlier. You know, nobody's dropping Trevor Story, but he's ice cold right now. Matt Olson started hot. He went back to, he's ice cold, but you just got to be patient. I mean, if I could push anything for anybody, don't make any type of drastic moves right now. Just persevere with the guys you drafted because you drafted them for a reason.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long year, as it always is with fantasy baseball. Some of the things that were really interesting to see is when you go into your drafts, like a month ago, Trey Turner is the number 1 projected player in the league. There's no longer Mike Trout or anyone like that. What do you make of this first month and where you got your value from your players in those picks?
Yeah, it comes from everywhere. One guy that's sticking out to me right now, and I've just been praising his name since I picked him up, is Taylor Ward for the Angels, outfielder. Kind of was like a middling prospect, was overshadowed by Joe Adell. And he's doing really good, really good to the extent that Joe Madden, the skipper, has had him leading off. I watched him face against Shane Bieber, almost said Justin there, and watched him hit 2 home runs off of a previous Cy Young Award winner, taking the dude opposite field. I'm like, man, who is this guy? Holy crap. And then if you dig into his StatCast numbers, this guy's hitting in like the 99 percentile, I believe. Hard hit rate, 99 percentile. That's really, really good. So it's intriguing to me to see how long this will last. He's a patient hitter, which is great. I believe his strikeout to walk ratio is pretty close to a 1-to-1. Those are the type of guys you look for, and this is a guy 28 years old who, again, is kind of a slow ascent into the majors. These are the kind of guys that I love targeting. They have all these shiny names out there and people are drafting all the young guns. But, I mean, as a lot of people would tend to point out, even Mike Trout had a really tough go at it, his first bout with the major leagues. And when it comes to draft day, man, I really try to avoid those dudes because they tend to go really early when you could get a formidable veteran that you can just plug and play right away. I mean, look at Jared Kelenic. Talk about slow starts. I mean, he is a guy who's starting to worry me now because of last year. And a lot of guys took him, I think he was ranked in Yahoo as 130 or something like that, above the likes of even a Marcelo Zuna, somebody that just comes off the top of my mind.
Right.
Who was drafted way later and is playing way better than Jared Kelenic right now.
And it's interesting. I still don't know how to pronounce this guy's fucking name because I watched a game where they called him Kelenic, and I watched 2 games in a row where they called him Kelnick. So you got me on that one. But yeah, that's been a nightmare watching him, in my starting lineup. And there's other guys that, I was surprised fell to me because with my 8th pick in my defending championship league, I took Bryce Harper, and I got Mike Trout at 13 on the turnaround.
Yeah,
Mike Trout's off to a great start. So I'm really happy with that, but it's also interesting to note that, the number 1 ranked player in baseball right now as it stands through the first month of baseball season is Manny Machado. And I believe that, the home run leader at this moment is Anthony Rizzo. So there's all kinds of craziness. It's going to kind of shake out and smooth out as we keep going. I want to bring up one guy. Rob, I owe this all to you. You called this. C.J. Cron on the Rockies. Huge value this year. No one went after him. I got him very late in the draft, super late, and he's batting I think like 282 with 7 or 8 home runs. last time I looked at him, and I'm very excited because, you know, Rizzo being the home run leader at first base, Cron's probably the best first baseman in the league that you could own right now. Is this a surprise to you? You were talking about him maybe being a breakout candidate.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, it's just the perfect storm. He's a guy who hits the ball extremely hard and went to the thin air in Colorado. I mean, and this is like the tip of the iceberg for him, because again, once it gets hotter in Colorado, that air really thins out. More than likely, C.J. Cron was drafted probably in the whereabouts of about like the 20th round, I would want to say, because he really fell in our draft.
Yeah.
And I just told my buddy, I was like, dude, snag this guy. Like, you're going to draft a dude in the 20th round who can bash like 30 home runs, 110 RBI, and bat like a 280, which I'm pretty sure is similar to what he did last year. And yet he just continued to fall. I don't know why, to be honest. Maybe it's just he's sole first base. A lot of people tend to pick out and say, oh, well, his home road splits are so ridiculous. It's like, yeah, but the guy's still producing monster fantasy numbers. Like, who cares? You know, and yeah, C.J. Cron has been a very, very pleasant surprise this year as well.
Another guy that's shocked me, to be quite honest, is Tyler McGill on the Mets. 89% rostered at this moment, but probably one of the better pitchers in the league at this moment. I think he combined with somebody else the other day for a no-hitter in the Mets game.
5 pitchers for the no-hitter, yep.
Yeah. So this has been somebody who's given back huge value. You're not actually seeing a whole lot of the projected first-round guys in the high rankings right now as it stands, and obviously it's a long season, but we're back to seeing Aaron Judge in the top 5, Jose Ramirez in the top 5, and another guy that you want to probably talk about for a second here, Taylor Ward, who I'll be seeing at the Angels-Red Sox game.
Yes, again, like I said, it's just almost kind of the perfect makeout for that guy, and he just essentially by the Angels cutting Justin Upton before this season started, it kind of opened up playing time for him, and another outfielder there is Brandon Marsh, who looks really good. And that Angels, I think, offense is number 1 in every statistical offensive category in the major leagues right now, if I'm not mistaken. Now, it helps, of course. They've got Ohtani, they've got Trout, and Rendon seems to be healthy at the beginning of the season. But, dude, Taylor Ward and Brandon Marsh really are starting to step up their games. They have, blanking on the first baseman's name right now, who he broke out in a big way last year too. Oh gosh, it'll come to me. But yeah, Angels are looking really good, and it's a lineup that's turning over quickly with all these great bats. So real quick, you just have to be very alert at the beginning of the season, and I've learned from a long time ago, like, I am a little aggressive. I'm a little more aggressive these days, but I'm also patient. It's that you got to find that balance.
I'm interested to know what you think with your expertise, because I'm kind of, you know, walking the tightrope here with starting pitchers and relief pitchers, and I'm kind of got my eye on a guy who started off really hot but isn't a huge name on most people's rosters at the moment. Paul Blackburn for the Athletics. Have you been watching him right now?
Yeah, he looks really, really good, and I mean, anybody with on the A's, they're gonna be trade bait. So like a guy like him, Frankie Montas, Ramon Laureano, who's coming up from a PED suspension. I mean, I would grab any of those dudes only because is a high potential for them to get moved at the trade deadline. With the A's, you know, sending off Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Chris Bassett, you know, another Mets pitcher that's doing really, really well to begin this season. So, yeah, I'd be all over anybody that's actually producing for the Oakland A's at this point.
Yeah, and you know, it's like getting 5 innings every single game. I'm not sure how many Ks it's going to translate to, but he keeps getting the win. So it's somebody I'm going to keep on my watch list. Also thinking about starting Drew Rasmussen for the Rays. If I had any baseball team that's my favorite at the moment, it's going to be the Rays, just because of how many times I saw them while I lived in Florida. I don't really have my own, you know, favorite team. There's a lot of disappointments right now. Like, I'm waiting on Flaherty to come back, Casey Mize. My boy Clark Schmidt, who I'm a huge fan of, sent back down to the minors after a couple of nice outings for the Yankees. So it's going to be an interesting year. I'm waiting for all this to play out. I think Wander Franco's off to a great start. Bobby Witt Jr. not so much. All of the Royals have been pretty disappointing so far. And
I was going to say, for sure. For sure. Whit Merrifield being an absolute bust at this point. But again, there's plenty of
baseball left.
Yes.
I just before we move on to any football stuff, any other guys you want to just kind of poke around and talk about real quick, like Connor Joe or that Stephen Kwan kid, or anybody that's in your bullpen, so to speak, of guys that you're watching or just interested to see for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think Connor Joe and Quan were two dark horses to begin the year, and I believe both of them are like well over 80% owned at this point. And those were two really good guys that I believe especially Quan went undrafted easily in a lot of leagues. And if Connor Joe did get selected, it was in the later rounds as a flyer.
Yep.
Tristan McKenzie is a pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. I'd hate to make anybody mad. Make sure we use the right surname there, the Guardians. It looks like a pitcher I would be all over. If somehow, some way you could get him on any of your teams, I think he's really going to take the next step this year. I got him everywhere I possibly could. Jesus Luzardo is a dude, once again, I got him everywhere I possibly could. Again, an Oakland A that was moved. It looks like prematurely, and he is going to pay off big time with the Marlins. Big strikeout numbers. I think he really only had one bad game so far. And if anybody's low on Max Fried, this is one of my absolute favorite pitchers in baseball. I believe he will contend for the Cy Young this year. Max Fried, if anybody is sour on him after his one or two bad starts, where if you look at the numbers, he was just dink and doink to death, happens all the time. Dude's a stud. If you look at his underlying numbers, he's I think in one game I was watching with him, it was before he had a big monster game against the Dodgers. I think it was the Reds that got to him. They said the average exit velocity of a baseball that came off a bat while he was pitching was like 70-something miles, like 79 miles per hour. That's insane. Unbelievable soft contact, and on top of that, he does have a very solid, not excellent, but solid strikeout ratio as well. I would be all over Max Fried if you can find somebody that's just kind of sour on him, though he now has had like two really solid games, and I believe he pitches tonight against the Mets, which that's going to be a fun series. There's a few pitchers for you, batter-wise, not named Taylor Ward. Baseball's so funny. You know who okay, here you go. Here's one. A lot of people were kind of getting over, I feel like prematurely. Julio Rodriguez, the outfielder for Seattle, who I believe already has 7 stolen bases, just smacked his first homer the other day. I think he's about to take off. I would get him everywhere that I possibly could because he's known for his power, yet he has 7 stolen bases. I mean, if things translate and break correctly, that potentially could look like a 30-30 type of guy, and Seattle's only going to get better. Again, Jesse Winker's a dude I'm preaching still. Don't give up just yet, because his StatCast numbers just saying that he's just getting very unlucky. I think he's had 3 home runs at the warning track, so it's only a matter of time for him as well.
Yeah, and guys, we'll be talking about this more over the course of the season. We got a late start. We've both been really busy. Tomorrow I'll be going to the Red Sox game at Fenway, where the Angels are showing up. Hopefully Ohtani will be at least batting. He was supposed to make a start at pitcher, but he had the groin issue. Trout DHing today. He should be fine to go tomorrow. Going to see Rendon because he's got the day off today, so that's just maintenance. Xander Bogaerts, Trevor Story. It's going to be a fun night, and we'll keep you guys updated as much as we can with Rob's expertise on baseball and continue to update our fantasy teams along the season. Let's talk about some football real quick. We just had the 2022 NFL Draft, which means you and I and everybody else are going to start itching for football season to start and get our rookie draft done. What is the big takeaway? Anything from our Jacksonville Jaguars first pick to maybe some surprising falls, or, as I said, was this one of the more boring drafts that you've seen, and are you excited for this season in terms of the incoming talent?
Yeah, man. When it comes to the Jaguars, I hope they know what they're doing. I mean, we've seen this time in and time out. I don't know where the Trayvon Walker love suddenly came from 1 week before the draft, but so be it, whatever. The dude played all over the field. I think he'll start right away. I don't see why he wouldn't. I think it's very concerning, the wide receivers, that they went so early.
All of them.
I knew by like the 10th or 12th, once Jahan Dotson went to the Commanders with, I think, the 17th pick. If I offended anybody that believed it should be the football team, I'm sorry again. But yeah, once I saw him go, I was like, we're not getting a receiver. We're not going to, because that was insane. That run was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I've never seen so many cornerbacks go in my life. Like, that's when I was really starting to scratch my head. I think one went in the third and one went into the fourth, and I was just like, huh?
There was
like, I've never seen so many corners.
4 cornerbacks taken in the first 23 picks.
Isn't that crazy? And there were only one quarterback. Like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Like, that's one of the craziest drafts I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
If you were going to say shock, which was the one that we had talked about earlier months ago, I said Pittsburgh gets Kenny Pickett,
yeah,
the
we
Pittsburgh
were talking
quarterback.
about that for a while.
And I think that was I think that was the coolest moment in the draft for sure. I really liked seeing that.
You know what's interesting is...
But yeah, that's pretty much my take.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson was supposed to be the #1 undisputed wide receiver in this draft. We wind up seeing Drake London from USC go number 8 overall to the Atlanta Falcons out of the Pac-12. I pulled his autograph out of a box of cards, was very excited about it, and then, I'm starting to think Mariota is technically supposed to be starting, or at least they say he's going to, for the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a slow roll with him, because I don't think, too much of Kyle Pitts' production going forward if Mariota is going to be at the helm all year. And you got to wonder, it's like Garrett Wilson on the Jets with a Zach Wilson that's going to be in his second year of maturity, and the Jets had a great draft, and I'm starting to wonder, is Garrett Wilson going to be better for fantasy football than Drake London, or you think, Jahan Dotson, for example, he was supposed to be a second rounder until like the last couple months, and he really worked his way up into this draft. I mean, he went before Kyle Hamilton, who some thought was going to be a top 5 pick at safety out of Notre Dame. Well, I'm sorry, Jahan Dotson, I think maybe went a couple picks after him, so maybe I got that.
He did, up. Yeah, I was going to say.
16
Kyle
or
Hamilton.
something like that.
You're good.
Yeah, so, but I mean, who are you looking at in terms of your big fantasy rookie that's going to make an immediate impact on the field this year?
Yeah, no, Jahan Dotson's one of them. I'm not going to lie, not being a Penn State homer, but I think he fits Carson Wentz perfectly. I know that sounds kind of weird or crazy, because I don't think Carson Wentz is the best best quarterback, and he's had great receivers, but like Jahan Dotson is quick. He has amazing hands. Route running is probably one of the better of any of the options that was available in this draft, and I think Washington got a gift with him falling to 17. I really think he's really, really good.
Yeah, I think he was 16, but not much of a difference.
16, okay, sure. Yeah, and then we were just talking about him. Bryce, is it Bryce Ball? Am I?
Bryce Hall?
The Jets running for Breece Hall. Sure. I just don't have it in front of me. I'm just
the Iowa State kid. Kenneth Walker the third is also going to be big for fantasy going forward, and the reason I think that's a thing is going on to the Seattle Seahawks with Rashad Penny, who made a big jump at the end of last year, but we're not sure what his role is going to be this season. Carson, getting hurt all the time. I'm not sure where that's going to play out. But Kenneth Walker III, he might be someone to keep your eye on. Another guy I really like, and I know the Houston Texans are going to be an absolute fucking mess this year, but John Mechie III out of Alabama.
Yes.
Keep your eye on that kid as well. See, because these are going to be the sleepers if you're doing a rookie draft or anything like that, or especially in a redraft league. If you get some of these guys really late, some of them are going to be pretty surprising. I think everybody knew that this was a wide receiver stacked draft.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I wish the Jaguars could have jumped on one of those guys, but it just didn't fall correctly. That's why I'm so upset.
Well, especially Mechie, the way he fell. I wish. Where did he go in the third round?
I think Mechie.
I couldn't believe it.
But it was like pick 40 something.
Okay, close enough. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. That is the one pick. I agree with you that the Jags. I was kind of like, come on, like we kind of need another receiver, but I don't know, man.
And then the Jags could have got him.
Easy.
Yeah, so
easy. And then we took that running back at Ole Miss, and I'm just like, what are we doing with ETN now? I mean, I know we were talking about this earlier. Like, this is going to be really interesting. I guess we believe in Zay Jones.
Well, and again, I think we've got a great thing going on with Etienne being a former teammate of Trevor Lawrence's, and the fact that he didn't play last year under urban suburban mother Meyer. It's one of those things where we basically got a great high draft pick for this year added on. I'm just a little upset we didn't get Aiden Hutchinson. 2021 Lombardi Award winner, Lott Trophy, Ted Hendricks Award winner, great fucking guy out of Michigan. Seems like a team leader. So we're just have to pray and get behind Trayvon Walker and just, support that. But, a lot of guys that I wanted, Evan Neal, he goes right after it, like pick 7 to the Giants. And I just hope that we didn't miss out on some of this other top talent in the league, and that there's good things to come.
Me too.
In terms of fantasy relevance, I think the big guys that we're going to be looking at are Garrett Wilson, Dotson, Drake London, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker III,
Olave. I still like Olave.
Yeah, Olave, exactly. Where did Olave go? He went.
He went to the Saints.
New Orleans Saints. Wasn't he like top 10 pick? Or
you just gotta hope Jameis close to. Yeah, he went. Wilson went first with the 10th pick to the Jets. And then Olave went pretty close. I think they went in between Wilson and Dotson, if I'm not mistaken. He was somewhere smack dab in the middle of that.
And remember, Kayvon Thibodeau, he was kind of unanimous first number 1 overall pick. And then Aiden Hutchinson kind of came into the picture, and they were thinking he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. And I'll let you talk about this in a second. Aiden Hutchinson goes second, right after we take Trayvon Walker. Thibodeau goes number 5 to the Giants. Then they get to turn around Evan Neal at 7.
And get Evan Neal, I know.
So New York had great drafts, both New York teams.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you think about the Trayvon Walker situation and how he got so much hype late into this year, this offseason before the draft.
Again, I have no idea outside of the versatility. There were a ton, I don't know the number off the top of my head, a ton of Georgia defensive players that went this year. Why they ultimately thought he would be number 1, I have no idea. But my push was Thibodeau, again, because he was a number 1 high school prospect coming up. Everybody was all over that guy, including Bama, Oregon, which is where he ultimately went, Penn State. I mean, any huge school you can think of was after that guy. And then suddenly, and this is what it reminded me so much of, is this West Coast thing. I believe nobody, not nobody watches West Coast football, but I believe a lot of people don't. And it's just like Justin Herbert all over again from the University of Oregon, where they were like, "Oh, he doesn't look like a leader. He's shy, blah blah." And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "What the hell are you talking?"
We talked about that all.
Did you watch this kid? Yeah.
We talked about that so much.
Like, did anybody watch him throw the football? I think Thibodeau had the same thing. Oh, in his 3rd year, his numbers dipped. I'm like, listen here, all you old heads and everybody else that's talking these days, the NIL is a real thing. The bowl games don't mean anything to college football anymore. These guys go to college to get to the NFL and collect their quote-unquote bag, as all the kids call it. This Thibodeau dude is going to be one of the steals of the draft, falling down to number 5. I can guarantee it. And it's probably going to be the one guy in my eyes that I'm going to go, Jacksonville, you shouldn't have listened to the fucking media. And you should have taken the best talent available, which is Thibodeau. The dude is a freak of nature.
And we're just used to that. And it's going to be a long season for football, just like it is for baseball, because we have so much time for these guys to get ready in the off season. Then we're going to watch a long preseason again. And it's interesting to see, guys that had a lot of hype coming in. Looks like we just got a huge update. DeAndre Hopkins suspended 6 games for violating the NFL's PED policy. So that is insane. Well, okay, more on that to come. Wow. And that's going to make big implications for Hollywood Brown being sent over to the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, and now Rashad Bateman, number 1 wide receiver on the Ravens. We're watching Malik Willis drop all the way to the Tennessee Titans in round 3. Coral goes late. Carson Strong doesn't get drafted because of his gimpy knee. There's all kinds of craziness going on. But, guys, we will be talking about this more as more developments come. It was great to be back and doing the podcast again. Me and Rob will be doing some more research and strategically placed podcasts as we have some time to do so. Once again, this is Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We will see you next time.